All right, welcome back to another episode of Sky's the Limit podcast. I'm your host, Mike Doherty, and today we have an awesome guest, Zach Zimmer, who's from the Passive Life. Zach has done some pretty amazing stuff. I know we interview a lot of people who are doing syndication. He's actually doing the opposite. He's owning 100% equity in what he's doing, but he didn't just get there, right? So Zach, he was climbing the corporate ladder like a lot of, I'm sure the listeners and myself did, thinking like that's what everyone teaches you. So he was climbing the corporate ladder. He got a degree, good job, got the MBA. His wife was doing the same, but then he kind of came to an epiphany and started learning more about real estate, listening to podcasts like this one, reading books, and has since done 150 single family home transactions. He's invested in syndications. He has multifamily investments. He does some hard money lending. So really, really impressive stuff. And with that, Zach, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Love to talk all things real estate, business, money, anything in that realm.
Yeah. So talk to me about that kind of mindset that you had when you were, climbing the corporate ladder, like a lot of people do. You learned, you went to college, you got a good degree, you got a good job. And everyone's always dangling the carrot in front of you, but you obviously came to a head with that and made the decision to pursue real estate full time. So what was that mindset and that shift that you went through?
So, it wasn't, it was let's call it probably like a 5-year epiphany, right? A 5-year change in mindset that slowly had me turn away from this guy who got up at 4 a.m, went to the gym, was the first guy in the office in the nice shoes and the dressy clothes, running around at 100 miles an hour to show my energy. And, wherever the company wanted me to go, coming in on weekends, managing large teams, like that was what I thought was going to put me to where I thought was the ideal place. A chief operating officer, a president of manufacturing, a business unit general manager, right? I came up through manufacturing, so automotive, industrial. And yeah, I guess I looked up to those guys who ran multiple plants and business units. And it, it didn't hit me at the time in my early 20s or 30s, but yeah, those guys were married to their career. Their chief executive, their chairman of the board, their president is on them 24/7 about issues that happen, because manufacturing is just, it never stops generally. Plants are running around the clock and weekends, and you have customer delivery issues and you have quality issues. And I just looked at their hierarchy and their how much we would look up to these people. And I'm sure, nice income, 300,000, 400,000. And yeah, that's where I was headed until I started to, when I first dipped into real estate, it was, oh, it's side money. Oh, I'm going to sell these houses in 18 years as we're having a child, and that's going to pay for a couple of years of college. It was all just little things. And because there wasn't bigger pockets, there wasn't the podcasts in 2012, 2013, there wasn't the education and information, or at least I wasn't even thinking to go look for it, but there had to be 98% less education than there is out there now for free, to teach you and tell you that this could be something that replaces hundreds of thousands a year or millions of dollars a year. And you couldn't understand the systems, the BRRRR process. I doubt it was nicely defined out there, or even a good process with banks back then. And so it took, just doing it, buying houses when I didn't understand what to do. Oh, I can go buy this. Okay, here's a mortgage broker. They told me how to go buy an investment property. Oh, okay. A buddy tells me you go list it on Craigslist and you throw it out there for rent. And okay, and you do all these things. And then, probably about year 2 or 3, as I have 4 or 5 properties, a buddy told me something, who he was kind of who I was following. He learned at our company from somebody else who was buying rentals. And I remember my buddy Marcelo, when we were talking about merit time, right? Merit is when, hey, we get our bonus, do we get a raise at our company? And that happens generally in like the March time frame. And I remember him telling me, I don't care if I don't get a raise. Like, okay, what's 2 or 3%? If I want a raise, I'll go buy another property that pays me 300-400 a month. Like, and I'll buy, and that just hit me like, oh, yeah, this company is going to give me, maybe 2.5, 3% on, maybe what was I making back then? Maybe 65, $75,000. Okay, well, if I go buy another rental property, that's like the same thing. I can go buy two rental. I'll just keep giving myself raises, and so that hits me, and I just start reading some great books, Rich Dad Poor Dad and all those advisor books, right? Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great kind of Bible, so to speak, of real estate thinking. And then he has some much more tactical books, Tax Free Wealth, Retire Young, Retire Rich, of all his advisors, Ken McElroy and the tax and CPA guys. So there's a lot of books there that opened my mind. And then just getting lost in the forums of Bigger Pockets back then in 2013, 14, and just spending nights scrolling through my tablet, I remember, and just learning it all to where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep buying houses. And this is crazy. Like, we'll live off the W 2 and not touch the rental income and just let this thing snowball as long as we can.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's the biggest lesson that I teach and tell people when I'll meet them at events. And I just remember, like, before COVID, when wholesaling was, I mean, it is a real good skill to have. But I would meet a guy who wholesaled a couple houses, and he's like, "All right, I'm quitting my job now." And I'm like, "Whoa, it's a horrible decision." Like, okay, let's say you're making 5,000 a month. Okay, you're going to quit your job. How much do you need to live off of? You're going to burn up all your real estate money in just living expenses. Like, you don't quit, you keep your job till the day, in my case, that you get let go. And then you can be like, okay, I didn't know what the number was, but I tell everybody, you keep your job until you make passively 3 times what you need to live off of.
Yeah.
Right. So you allow for expansion and you allow that thing to continue to snowball. Right. So if you're only living on 50%, right, you're reinvesting 50% a month back into your snowball. And that's how it was when I finally got let go. And I had thought about, years for quitting because I was making 3 times passively what I made as a director of engineering. But I had buddies that just were like, "You're crazy, man. You keep that thing going." Because one thing I did leverage is the ability to not have to work to go find easier jobs. So I remember, the last one I did was I was getting ready to quit private equity, right? I'm making 3 times what you're paying me as a director of engineering, and you're just chewing my ass out all the time because it was private equity owned and they're there for a turnaround to turn around this company. So they don't accept anything other than excellence and performance. And, that was a 24/7 operation. So I'm just like, man, why am I dealing with weekend night issues when I don't have to? And I was getting ready to quit and I got hit up on LinkedIn from a healthcare company. And I was like, healthcare, right? What does that have to do with a manufacturing engineering manager? And but it was about continuous improvement in healthcare. And I remember hearing from the guy who was hiring me, he's like, dude, this is cake. These doctors and clinicians have no clue how to run a company. They know how to fix people and heal people, but they don't know how to run a company. We need operational executives that can run this company. And had I not had this background or this real estate behind me, I never would have made that jump into a completely different industry and risk, but because, I mean, this sounds fun and it sounds real easy. Like, that my background in operational improvement, can fix a healthcare company. And so it allows you to make risks in your career and in your W 2, right? When you have that passive cushion, because I didn't have that twice in my career. And, a unfortunately, in a 5-minute conversation, that employer can put me in tears, right? And when you have nothing else, you just have your W 2, as Tim Shiner says, you have one leg under your table, right? And what happens when one leg comes out from under a table? The table's done. And that happened to me and my wife, my pregnant wife, in the house that we were just building, and the company eliminated my department. And it was
Wow.
horrible. Like, I was actually at a conference for them. They didn't realize. And, they let me go when I'm in Kentucky. And I'm like, I'm not home. And it was a big mess because that was private equity owned. But, you know, when that happened, that was horrible, right? My wife's in tears. I'm in tears. We're pregnant. We just bought a new house and we just lost 70% of our income. She was still working at that time, but we can't live on 30%. Fast forward 6 years later, I get let go again, and we make three times what I made as a director in healthcare passively. And so it was almost comical when I came home that day. And my wife's like, "What are you doing home so early?" And like, that's it. And we had just built a pretty ridiculous house. We had new cars and everything. And she's like, "Are we okay?" I'm like, "I got to get a cell phone. I got to get a laptop," because it was all company stuff forever. And I was like, "Yeah, we got to get insurance, So I got some work I got to do this week, but yeah, I think we're going to be fine.
We're
We're going to
good.
start our
Yeah. That's
retirement."
amazing.
And,
Yeah.
so
No, that's amazing. So now let me ask you, what does your portfolio look like now? And if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to share, or you could share a range. What does your
no,
portfolio look
yep,
like now, and how much does that afford you in terms of monthly cash flow? Right? Because I think a
yep,
lot of listeners, and when I first started in real estate, I was like, oh, all I need is five, maybe seven houses, and I can retire. It just doesn't work like
yep,
that. Things come up.
yep,
Things always come up.
yep,
And, a new roof can take out a whole year's of cash flow. So I'd love for the listeners to, and genuinely my curiosity as well, how many
yep,
units do you personally own? And I appreciate that you're not syndicating them, because we can get into that big difference. You have 100% equity versus you syndicating and
yep,
raising all of the equity and never really owning them. So how many units do you own, and
yep.
what does that monthly cash flow look like for you?
Yep. And first, on just like on here and on my podcast, I hide nothing. I love to talk the numbers. So I always, you can ask me any numbers. I'll give them all to you. What we spend every month, what net worth making. Um, so let's talk now, but I think you'll also want to talk about where I was and how many I sold off and lost in private equity. So we'll come back to that. But right now, so I've been building back up since I sold a bunch to do syndications. I back up to 53 this week. I closed on 53, so 53 single families, no
Beautiful.
multi. All the multis
Okay.
were sold off, and so those 53 single families. Let's do exactly. I'll tell you the exact numbers. Pull that up here.
And do you use bank financing on those?
So I buy in cash, rehab in cash, and then I take a package of single families, and I
Hmm.
have a closing next week with Renovo. If anybody wants
Yeah,
a
we use
contact,
Renovo here. Yep.
so yep, Mike Kowalski in Renovo for Ohio. So I just moved to them. I had been doing community banks, which love single family rental real estate, but my tax returns are incredibly complicated and I make no money.
Hmm.
And so eventually, after they lend 400,000 or 500,000, and you have three or four of them doing that, they kind of be like, Zach, I think and they each bank here has gone through their phase of wanting to be in a bunch of residential real estate. So, Wayne Savings, Apple Creek, now the one that we're doing the most with, S&T, they were pushing it out there. They wanted a ton. And I'm friends with the COO. I was with him on the other night. And I said, "Hey, you guys not interested anymore?" Because I noticed their terms really changed and they've pushed a couple of us away. And he said, "Nope, we're done. We're full," because they have their metrics, right? How much, I got millions out here, but how much do I have in deposits? And they know us, higher volume, astute investors, we don't give our deposits to a community bank. Like I want the JP Morgan Chase suite of private client so I can send a wire from my phone when I'm on my paddleboard in Florida, right? So that I can do all this amazing stuff that a community bank just can't offer me. So yeah, I moved to Renovo on this package, and so I have 5 houses, and that's kind of my process. I will take a package every 6 months of houses that are owned in cash, and I will take out 30-year fixed debt. And my basis in this package was about 50% loan to value. So a really, really good acquired group of properties the last 6 months. And I'll take out a 60% loan to value since that's about their best feature. Going any lower doesn't make sense. So I'll pocket about $20,000 tax free, and I will cash flow about 2,500 a month on those 5 properties after getting all my money back out of them. So a return on investment of infinity, right?
It's
Zero
very
cash left in the deal. Um, not crazy over leveraged. I'm at like a 60% loan to value, and my basis was at 50, so I get to pocket some money. And yeah, I'll keep doing that BRRRR strategy to continue to pull my cash back out because I believe that home equity is a bad investment, and I will pull that equity out and I will lend it. So I do a lot of hard money lending at 12 to 15%, and then I'll buy more properties with it that end up, I'll end up at a return of investment of infinity. But traditionally, when I'm buying these, I want to see my basis somewhere in that high teen of a cash on cash return. Whereas I used to be in the mid 20s, but that's kind of impossible to do today. Maybe one or two a year I can hit in the 20s now. But I'd say my average now is more of a high teen. But let
That's
me pull
awesome.
up. So here's the real details. So yeah, so at 53 now, I'll be at 67,000 a month in gross rent, and that translates after mortgages, property taxes, and insurance to 38,000 a month in net income. So that has me at
Wow.
a yeah, so that's averaging about $675 net cash flow per door.
Yep. Yeah, that's amazing. And the beautiful thing, there's something to be said about single family houses. Other than my primary residence, my partner Ryan and I at Skytree, we don't have any single family rentals, but I'm open to it because you can almost treat it like a triple net like triple net building, which is for all the listeners, that would be like a single tenant retail or industrial building, right? Where you just have one tenant and they pay their own water sewer. You can even probably build in your lease that they pay up to a couple $100s worth of repairs. Like, I'm not going to come over and replace a smoke detector. You guys do it. If your roof leaks, I will replace it. If you have, foundation issues, obviously that's my issue. Driveway, my issue, but I'm not going to mow your lawn or
Yeah.
remove the snow at your house, right? So
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing in the water sewer bill. What would normally be on the landlord to pay, at least here in Connecticut, for a multi, that goes right to the property tenant. So, um, there's something to be. So you've obviously, been through you've seen it all at this point. You've dabbled in a lot of different stuff, and
A
for you,
lot.
single family rentals is kind of that's where you like, right?
I've played around in multi. I've done a ton of syndications. I've owned
Yep.
a trampoline park. I have a lien on a bowling alley. I've been into a lot of different things. I've played with the Amazon e-commerce stores. I've done so many things
FBA,
that
yeah.
yeah, and yeah, especially because it's my backyard. I mean, that's why, my backyard is the top 5 in the country in rental returns.
So how
So
are you still getting them at like crazy good prices where you can buy it cheap, cash, renovate, cash out, refi, and still have a 60% loan to value and it cash flows? So,
okay, so let's see. The last 5 I bought, uh, one, so off market acquisition, motivated seller, came through one of my best friend's channels. The other one came from a friend, wholesaler of mine, who he wanted to move it quick. I was in Florida. I sent him sent the wire from Florida, and again from the chase, right? Just log into my
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
So closed on that sight unseen. The other one was on the MLS, and I
Okay.
noticed they had a price, and it was two houses down from another one that I own. That was an off-market lead from my buddy, and so this one I saw it for sale. They did a like an $8,000 or $10,000 price drop, like 89 to 79. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start calling. So I call them up. I was like, hey, I saw you just did a price drop. I own the house two houses down. It's still too high for a two bed, but I'd probably pay 60 grand. And they're like, well, these guys are in contract and they got to sell this house in the next 2 weeks or they can't buy their next house. And I'm like, this sounds like great time for us to get together. And yeah,
Yep.
so they had it listed at 72 on their price drop, and I locked it up at 60 and just brought, it reeked of weed. That was probably why it didn't get a lot of traction. But I bring in my ozone machine, let the ozone machine
Yeah.
run for like a long weekend, and then we did some painting. And yeah, so I put 2,500 into it. So I'm gonna do it for 62.5 and renting at 11.25.
Yeah. That's
Um,
almost 2% rule right there.
the next one was one of my biggest wins of the year. This came from an old investor who he just bought like tons of garbage properties, and now he has bad health, and he reached out to me, sent me a text, and he wanted like 40,000. I went through it and I was like, oh, this needs way too much. Like, I'm gonna have to send a crew there for a long time, and needed everything. I mean, it was completely gutted. But I got it for 30. We put 32 into it. It appraised at 145. So
Nice.
on 63,000 basis, it appraised at 145. That's rented at 1350 on
Beautiful.
63,000.
Yep. That's
So
awesome. And
so
your
it's a
your
mix.
expenses, yeah, what do your expenses look like for owning these single families other than your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance? You're already renovating them, so your capex generally has got to be pretty low, and your maintenance and repairs every month has to be pretty low, right?
Yeah, so drains are on them. We I went to a session by Jeffrey Taylor probably 8 years ago. He runs Mr. Landlord, and if anybody wants and he's not really even a coach. He just puts on like seminars and he puts on conferences. That guy, he is not your typical Facebook salesman for real estate. You're not going to see any reels and TikToks from him. He's this 60-year-old that's owned hundreds and hundreds of single families, and he just likes to talk about it. And it's funny, like when you call the number on his website, he's the one that answers, and he might be driving
Yeah,
in
that's
his
crazy.
car. And it's like, he doesn't have some huge crew, but he told me some things 9, 10 years ago. Like screen doors, no, we take off screen doors. Disposals, nope, we take off disposals. Ceiling fans, nope. So like he tells you all these things that you're like, oh, I thought those would be good features for a rental, but now you're just talking maintenance headaches.
Yeah,
So,
washer dryers. I always make sure that I'll
oh,
provide the hookups, but you
yep,
guys have your own washer dryers. Yep,
yep.
I do that all. Yep.
So
Um,
we
yeah,
kind of have
that's
a
great.
process, right? Just anything
Tenant
that
proof it.
it
You're tenant proofing the house.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
So
totally get it.
yep, vinyl plank
That's awesome.
flooring and yeah, just doing that to not get the calls. And yeah, I mean they run pretty well, and you
You
just
do
you
all your
screw.
own management, I assume.
So that's something I have kept with me because it's so infrequent. So if I was to give this to a property manager, right? I mean, I'm going to pay 8% of
Easily.
$67,000.
Yep.
And I have such little, yeah, it can come in spurts, but like I was in Africa for 3 weeks this summer with an investor group. Didn't have any issues, didn't have anything going on, no utilities in my name, no properties to show, nothing. Came home for a week, was over back across the Atlantic again to Scotland for 10 days. Um, I don't have enough going on to say, yeah, I want to pay $7,000 a month in property management fees So for now, I handle it. I
And
think
I could hear it in your voice. You're passionate about it too. So,
well,
if listen, yeah, it all shows.
I certainly don't think I will be doing this in 15, 20 years. I hope that my kids, one of them at least takes over, the property business. But that's the great thing with single families, or I just start peeling them off like I did during COVID. If I want to start peeling these off and just start plowing into, passive dividend stocks to have monthly income coming in or something.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Zach, I mean, I want to keep it to the time frame that we talked about, but man, congratulations! I really hats off to you on all your success. Definitely going to take a page out of your book and start looking at some single families. I think there's something really something really good to be said about that. So, for all the listeners, where can they find more about you?
So I'm on Facebook. I don't do like Instagram, TikTok, but they can find me Zach Zimmer on Facebook, as well as zachzimmer.com has the website where they can find out, yeah, I guess, more what I do. I have done some real sporadic kind of coaching, but I don't have like a big program. We do have a connection here since I realized I couldn't fight turnkeys being sold here, so I might as well support them. So I do lending to a close connection, ex-Amish of mine, who does complete turnkeys. So if someone is interested in Northeast Ohio real estate and not local here, you can buy $115,000 houses where everything is brand new that are renting at 1250. If that's interested, they can find information on the website, zachzimmer.com. And yeah, it's what I'm passionate about. Like I mentioned, I lost 7 figures in syndications, in bad operators and Ponzi schemes and complete fraud and people that are going to prison. So I stay away from syndicators and just plow it into brick mortar dirt, direct 100% owned that I
Yep.
control.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it, and definitely would like to stay in touch. So, and thank you for all of our listeners. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to Sky's the Limit podcast, which is on Apple and Spotify, and also our website. So, Zach, thank you, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching Sky's the Limit. We're always releasing new real estate content, so if there's something you want to hear, be sure to leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.